Let's try this out. Let's see what happens here, y'all. Judge Joe Brown has a full-on debate with this dude. Damn, I don't want to touch it. Let's go.
Of either friendly fire or incidental violence, the tragedy is that we've heard we've lost one of the Migos characters, Takeoff.
So, Judge Joe Brown has a debate with this guy, Eric Dyson, okay? And we're going to check this out. Let's get it.
Due to gun violence. My first question will go with you, Dr. Dyson. What is the biggest issue impacting black males today? Well, first of all, it's great to be here with Judge Joe Brown, a legendary and iconic figure in our...
So, Eric Dyson's debating Judge Joe Brown. All right? I didn't watch this, but let's get it.
...community and the nation. So it's an honor to have this little tete-a-tete conversation with...
What's going on? You heard it here first. Actually, second from the original. But you heard it here first. Judge Joe Brown is debating some dude, Eric Dyson. This is live in front of people. And they're going to talk about these black topics in light of Kamala and Joe Biden.
Such a distinguished figure. Obviously, what's confronting young black men, lack of resources, lack of employment, lack of education, the flooding of our communities, and indeed this nation with guns. Back in Judge Joe Brown's day, back in my day, there was a resolution of disagreement with fisticuffs. Sometimes in a dice game, you might get cut. But the rapid proliferation of access to guns has led to a devastating consequence.
So this dude is debating Judge Joe Brown. He's talking to the guy asked him, what is the problem with the black males in the community? And this is this guy's answer. Let's go.
In our communities. So we can talk about the ethical and moral outlook that we should encourage, that most black communities encourage upon our young people to take care of themselves, to get educated, to do as best they can in the culture. We go to church, we go to temple, we go to synagogue, we hear the moral lessons being encouraged upon us. But when I look at the devastating consequences of the hatred of the other, what used to be called black-on-black crime, people killed where they live. 93% of black people who are murdered by black people, 83% of white people who are murdered by white.
I gotta stop it every now and then, but I must admit, I did listen to this guy's first answer. I didn't listen any further than that, but I did listen to his first answer. And it's so funny how, now he's supposed to be for Kamala and Joe Biden. But it's very funny how he's talking about the destruction or the deletion of black males as far as gun violence and stuff like that. But if you guys understand anything about the black male and black female dynamic, he's not going to mention one of the top deletions, about 20-something million since the 80s.
White people, if you want integrated killing, have integrated communities. The truth is that there is lateral violence, and the violence expressed of one black person to another in intimate spaces where people are killing folk that they know or are familiar with. Because if you're at a game, you at least got to be introduced to somebody. And even if he's a victim of either friendly fire or...
I'm sorry, I've heard this answer, but listen to what he's saying. He's saying, you know, in order for black on blacks to have, you know, crime against one another, you have to be introduced to one another. But he's missing one factor. When the woman does the alleged crime, the human being doesn't even get to meet anybody. And he's not going to factor that into the destruction of the black male. This dude's crazy. Judge Brown going to go after him, though.
Or incidental violence. The tragedy is that our communities are gutted because of the devastation of the downward turn in the economy, the lack of access to resources, the failure to understand the necessity of a certain kind of preparation that we take upon ourselves, and as well, the ways in which we have been discouraged from believing that our lives are worth something. That doesn't come out of the thin air. That doesn't absolve people of personal responsibility.
Discouraging, we've been discouraged that our lives are not worth anything. But he's not adding in the other side of the deletion. Go ahead.
To address the situations in which they could discover themselves, but it's also a collective and institutional enterprise as well.
Same question to you, Judge Brown. What's the biggest issue impacting black males today?
All right. Let me start off with an example to explain it. Anybody in here afraid of me? No, you like me. I've taken martial arts for 55 years. There are not many adult humans I can't kill without a weapon very quickly. But you're not worried about me because I have character. I'm here to protect you, not to hurt you. We're seeing a lack of character in our community and across the United States because we are out of balance. We need women and we need men. But we have attempted to emasculate our communities, and we have no fathers in the homes. We have no fathers in the hood. We have no culture that is putting fatherhood out there so that the boys understand that they are to grow up and be men. And being a man, your job is to make where you live a better, safer, more secure place filled with.
Inshallah ta'ala, humanity is looking to make a change, looking to be able to meet the need.
Economic prosperity, sense of purpose, morality, and ethics. You are men of public peace, dignity, and order who can be brave and courageous when necessary. And
so, we got to stop it because we don't want to get a copyright. But understand something. Understand, the other man is talking about how, killing and all this other wild stuff. Judge Joe Brown speaks from a different standpoint. He said, yes, I know we've been messed up, but he speaks from a solution standpoint. And he wants the black people to be better. This other dude, he's making his points as well. Let's go.
We do not teach these young boys that they grow up to be monsters because they're out of control. Now, it's a pragmatic matter. I got elected to 2 8-year terms as a criminal court judge in Tennessee. And over that time period I was in, statewide recidivism rate for felons was 80%. In my courtroom, I dropped it down to 18%. Anybody that I put on bond, anybody that I put on probation, you had to deal with Judge Joe's counseling sessions. And I put manhood in their heads, so when they looked in the mirror in the morning, they had a guy.
I'm sorry about the visual, man. These people are, they'll copyright you. Maybe I could try to wipe the camera or something like that. But, you're getting the info here first. A lot of people going to review this, but you're getting it here first. Let's go.
So whether it was shame, whether it was guilt, they would look at themselves in the mirror and say, did you do what you were supposed to do as a man yesterday? Or are you going to do it today? Or are you going to prepare to do it tomorrow? And they come up to me now, 30 years later, and they say, Judge, you remember me? No, sir. But you gave me some time. Yeah. Did I give you enough? It was that thing about manhood, and now I've got 4 children and 6 grandchildren, and I teach them what you taught me. And I've got 15 young men in the neighborhood that I'm trying to counsel so they become positive factors. So when I do that, I don't think it's all worthless and there's no purpose. There is a reason. Even if I'm not here tomorrow, I did something to help the other people see the daylight at the end of the tunnel, and I become a hero. That is what I'm trying to do. We have to put character back in the hood.
So, I can say, Judge Joe Brown, he's trying everything that he could to rally black people back together. But the other guy, he is pro Kamala. So let's go.
Before now, what efforts have been made individually and collectively by the Biden administration to understand what black America experiences today?
Well, obviously, the Biden administration has made certain strategic moves, certain substantive moves, certain political moves, and certain legislative moves, right? So when you think about the fact that Biden committed to run with a black woman, right, the first in history, and then...
All right, let's get it. This man's talking that talk. Biden decided to run with a black woman. This is a black man. and he's saying Biden decided to run with a black woman, and he said, Biden is that guy. He put black women and black people or black women in position.
Put a black woman on the Supreme Court who's already earning her keep by asking penetrating questions, by being far more vocal than the black man who occupies that space.
Whoa. So he said the women that Biden put in place, the black women, are far more vocal than the black man could be. So this is a good debate. This guy, he has a lot of smoke for Judge Joe Brown. Let's go.
Far more vocal than the black man who occupies that space. When Judge Joe Brown talks about character, they ain't just in the hood, it's those who wear hoods. Right? And I think it's critical that Joe Biden's symbolic in terms of black women in these critical places, are also symbolic gestures, although they have substantive impact, are also accompanied by efforts to redress the economic inequity in the country.
All right. And just in case you people didn't understand what this man said, because that was a little bit of a word salad. Because everybody is saying that the people that votes for Kamala are doing it in light of symbolism, some sort of symbolic whatever. And he's playing on that. And then he's also trying to say plus efforts to put them in position. So he's admitting they're running off of symbolism. This is just starting. It's going to heat up. Let's go. I didn't see it.
Symbolic gestures, although they have substantive impact, are also accompanied by efforts to redress the economic inequity in the country.
Wow.
So when you see Republicans pushing back on right now the ability of black people to be able to, as other citizens, enjoy $20,000 of reparation, if you will, for student loans. The right wing is organized against that because it's not explicitly racially based, though it has racial consequence. They are arguing against that because it helps black people. Again, who can take a lesson, not only the Migos, but the right-wing Republicans who refuse to acknowledge the systemic complicity and white supremacist orientation of their entire tradition, trajectory, and history.
Wow. So he's just going to talk all these words on y'all. So he just talking all these. Now, they're doing this debate live. So he said he know these fucking black people don't understand all those words. Wow.
Against the betterment of the masses of people, including, by the way, poor and working class white folk, right? So they need character too, all right? Joe Biden.
Like I said, whoever this guy is, I don't know him, but he is surely speaking from a diversity, equity, and inclusion standpoint, meaning that he was saying the $20,000 reparation for the loan was not just for black people. So when he says something like that, that lets me know he's with inclusion, okay?
In terms of trying to put forth arguments about distribution of resources in terms of health care, trying to extend what has been called Obamacare to protect it. The Supreme Court so far, surprising to many, including Chief Justice Roberts, have protected that particular health care mandate that has been...
Once again, when you start talking about Obamacare, it's weird as hell, man. It's weird. Okay, let's say Obamacare is for black people, but it's also for everybody else. You understand? It's for the Mexicans, it's for the illegals, it's for anybody that fucking signs up. Now, when you sign up to that, understand something. You're not getting no doctor that really cares about you. You're not getting a doctor that, you're just getting a just basic. You might as well be going to Jiffy Lube, dog, So you going to Jiffy Lube and, you're not going to get the right medication. They can't prescribe it to you. It's expensive. Your health care is budgeted. It's not like you have unlimited health care fucking with Obamacare. You just can get in the hospital, basically slap some ointment and all the basics. So, like, if you got a broke leg or whatever the case is, they just giving your ass a cane and crutches. You're not getting the fly air cast and the mobile crutch where you could bend your knee, and you don't get all that stuff with the cheap Obamacare. But this guy's speaking for it like it's really something, because he's dealing with inclusion, meaning the Mexicans, everybody get it, because that's more than the Mexicans have in Mexico. But we are supposed, as blacks, supposed to, settle for just the poorest of care.
And translated into legislation that has helped millions of people in our communities. The attempt to even reduce it, and Judge and I were speaking about this earlier, the disparity between powder and crack cocaine. We know it was significantly reduced, but it still needs to be reduced. And then the other day, freeing all those people, or insisting that they be freed, who were put in jail for abusing some weed. Now again, right, we ain't trying to justify folks smoking weed, because most of y'all in this room done smoked it. You just ain't got caught, so you go on to church and...
Yo, you gotta understand what you're listening to. You're listening to somebody who's speaking up for Kamala. This dude said, yo, y'all was complaining because y'all had to do some time for some weed. This guy's good.
Act like the Holy Ghost got you when you barely skated through on that sticky green. So, at least I've heard that. I've looked at George I've seen that, I'm not sure. But the thing is that there are strategic deployments of messages to the black community, of substantive messages to the black community, of substantive politics to the black community. Does there need to be more? Yes. We'll look at what happened with the IRA. The point is that the black farmers were left high and dry, so that Attorney Benjamin Crump is suing in order to get restored to them the reparative monies that were delivered to them, or at least promised to them, I should say, because of the systemic inequities that farmers face. So yeah, there are a patchwork of legislation, of strategic and symbolic gestures. And let's be honest, when the judge speaks about character, he's right. Look at the orange apparition that beclouded the American horizon for 4 years, and that continues to do so. Thank God Elon Musk didn't own.
Okay, so now he's, calling Donald Trump orange and all that stuff, and that plays well. That plays well for the sisters and stuff like that. So let's go.
Twitter then, as he would be standing up every morning to excrete the feces of his moral depravity into a nation he's turned into a psychic commode. So for me, it is both policy, it is practice, it is behavior, and it is tone that is set as well. Because to open ourselves to a white supremacist demagogue with crypto-fascist impulses and neo-authoritarian impulses needs to be held in check. So,
wow, do you hear this dude? yo. Wow. That's crazy. I mean, the fact that, look, I'm a black man, and the fact that he's talking to me like this, saying all this crazy shit, a demagogue with a crypto fascist and all this, brother, what the fuck happened to you? All we want is some money, 40 acres and a mule. We'll find our way from there, nigga. Fuck are you talking about?
Even though he's an old white man that folks say is, on the downswing, I disagree with that. He's an old white man doing what he does. We got Judge Joe Brown up here, 75 years old, as sprightly as anybody up in this room. So I say I love older people doing their thing. Let's keep this man in office a little bit longer and see what he's gonna do.
Wow. I hope y'all heard that.
Oh, yeah. Forgot to tell you, I found a...
I hope y'all just heard that. He said, Judge Joe Brown, you 75 years old with your old ass. So he basically comparing Judge Joe Brown to Joe Biden. He like, no, we could rock with Joe Biden, Joe Brown's old. Yo, that dude right there. Wow. I guess that's where we come to, man. Nothing is special about being black, man. He compared that black man to that white man.
As sprightly as anybody up in this room. So I say I love older people doing their thing. Let's keep...
Hold on.
Agree with that. He's an old white man. To open ourselves to a white supremacist demagogue with crypto-fascist impulses and neo-authoritarian impulses needs to be held in check. So even though he's an old white man that folks say is, on the downswing, I disagree with that. He's an old white man doing what he does. We got Judge Joe Brown up here, 75 years old, as sprightly as anybody up in this room. So I say I love older people doing their thing. Let's keep this man in office a little bit longer to see what he's gonna do.
Wow. What is Judge Joe Brown gonna say about that? Let's go.
Your thoughts?
Let's put it this way. First off, I was a lifelong Democrat. Now I'm independent. I played football in high school in LA at Dorsey High and also at UCLA. Long time ago. I remember I detested and despised our quarterback. I hated his guts, but I blocked for him because he delivered the passes that got the touchdowns made. They got the championship. All right? You don't have to like somebody to go for them. Now, that said, I detest and despise the current president. 50-some years ago, I was down here in Dover doing research for a DC think tank that I was interning for. I heard a commotion outside, and I went out, and there was John D. Stennis, there was Eastland, there was Faultless, that's the guy that stood in the doorway of Little Rock High School and said those young Negro, Black, Afro-American, African-American Black students, some of whom I have met in life, were not going in there. Bird was there, and they were introducing the new up-and-coming Dixiecrats, and I Dixiecrat. And I saw a young man with a ducktail looking back like he was back in 1950-something. And he said some of the most disgusting things I'd ever heard said about my people. He's in the White House right now.
Wow.
And you have to look deeply.
Wow. So Judge Joe Brown is saying that, I have to stop the video for copyright. He's saying that while you over there caping for Joe Biden, let me tell you what happened 50 years ago. Wow.
And what is actually going on? Let's take the forgiveness of the student loan thing. Sounds good, except when you back off any place in the rest of the world that you had a 4-year college degree, you would be firmly in the middle class. In the United States of America, the Labor Department has said the middle class makes, if you're just one person, $125,000 a year, and that is the cutoff point for any relief under this thing with the student loans. So when they're giving you relief, that is a testimony that something is wrong here because you're not making what you ought to make with your education. Meanwhile, let's back off. Was it wholeheartedly done?
All right, Dolomite and y'all, I'm going live this way because I can't go live the other way. I done ran out all the hours, right? So, yeah, I can't really see the chat, I saw Dolomite's chat though. I could see it, when you actually, I guess, put it up there. I don't go live this way, but check this out. I did see the Tanya TKO stuff. I did see the Tanya TKO thumbnail. And then I saw something else where it was like she's talking about some passport bros and stuff like that. And I'm like, damn, after all the stuff we learned about her, we should definitely take a listen to that video knowing the status of her box. But anyway, this is about Judge Joe Brown. Let's go.
Or is there another purpose involved? Well, if you are a bank or a financial institution, you no longer have to wait for these loans to be paid off in installments. You get all of your interest in a complete...
So let me bring you up to speed. The other guy was Eric Dyson, whatever his name is, he was saying that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris giving people $20,000 for student loan forgiveness or whatever the case is. Judge Joe Brown said, yeah, but if you middle class, that's the, 125,000, that's the cutoff for where you could get the forgiveness. So if you went to college and you have the student loan and you got the job, I guess, that you wanted, and you're making 125 and up, then you don't get the student loan forgiveness.
Repayment on the obligation all at one time. You can discharge people in your loan collection departments. You don't have court costs and attorney fees to take people to court. You make a ball. Meanwhile, some people are happy, but their financial circumstances still haven't changed, and they're not in the middle class, even though they've got a 4-year degree. Why is that? Because the country is not dealing with what it ought to deal with, because computerization and industrial technology have made most working class people obsolete. So there are not enough jobs going around to enough people. So what we do is the same thing when we have a surplus in any kind of commodity, whether it is wheat, corn, cotton, or people. We do 3 things. We store the surplus. That's the jail cell instead of the grain silo. You have a subsidy of the would-be producer. That's a government check that people become too dependent upon. You pay the farmer ordinarily, say not to grow soy, and you cut back production. Well, the farmer doesn't grow soy, but in our case, with all the negatives on social media, entertainments, the kids bang out, drug out, crop out, get pregnant too early, too often, don't develop any vocational skills, any academic excellence, they have wrong ideation, they turn where they live into chaos-filled areas, they just are unemployable, and when they get that first felony, then you don't have to worry about them. And why is that important? Because there's some guys, one of whom is named Timothy McVeigh, get real worked up and they go down and buy $250 worth of ammonium nitrate fertilizer, and they go blow up a courthouse in Oklahoma City and kill 240 some people. Well, they don't want that, so they come up with a safety valve. You have schoolhouse to jailhouse pipelines, and you put people who are in a position where there's surplus to the labor requirements in there, and everybody gets to talk about free to righteous brothers in the penitentiary, which has some traction. But I know from 50 years in criminal law, you have 97+% who plead guilty. They didn't get found guilty. Got 84 to 87% that confessed. Some people.
All right, so we're gonna fast forward a little bit. Judge Joe Brown is talking about, when these guys get felonies, they plead guilty, for lesser time or whatever, but they still got that felony on their record, and you can't get a good job or whatever.
You go there at night and now in the daytime. See, there's some things that be done. So don't worry about whether you like somebody. Just think of it as you're on a team, and even if you don't like your quarterback personally, you want to throw that touchdown pass, and you block for him. Now,
Speaking of education, and I want to ask both of you this question. This came from the audience. What are your thoughts? I'll start with you, Dr. Dyson. What are your thoughts on critical race theory? Some say it's telling the truth on American history. Others say it's anti-American rhetoric. Your thoughts?
Yeah, well, and I just want to amplify what the judge said. Character, again. When you got your family to hook up in the White House as your advisors, when you're using American economy as an extension to bankroll your own practices and commodifying cultural consciousness and political practice to serve your own venal vicious ends, they ain't got no character. And you talk about white collar crime versus blue collar crime, and it's true. And the judge is absolutely right. Nobody arguing. This is no brief in defense of thugs, but there are thugs everywhere, and the thugs have to be called out where they are. We know one group will be identified because what the judge is speaking about, the reason y'all ain't men in it, y'all believe that if you do the crime, you should do the time. Y'all believe that your community should not be rife with all kinds of moral pollution. But the other side, they claim they believe the same thing. January 6th proved they don't believe none of that. They don't believe no Blue Lives Matter. They were devastating the police people on that.
Whoa. Yo, this guy's crazy, man. This guy's crazy. He's talking about January 6th to a room full of black people. I don't know. Maybe it's me, man. But when I saw January 6th, I didn't see a black person out there. I didn't see black people doing stuff, harming blue lives. I didn't see black people out there doing stuff to the people. Yo, this dude is crazy. Black people didn't go out there and do this January 6th stuff.
They don't believe in the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, the right. with all kinds of moral pollution. But the other side, they claim they believe the same thing. January 6th proved they don't believe none of that. They don't believe no Blue Lives Matter. They were devastating the police people on that day.
Wow.
They don't believe in the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Rights, the Federalist Papers. They took a Confederate flag, the banner of disloyalty, and drug it through the United States Capitol, the very embodiment, symbolically speaking, of democratic practice, small d. And then imagine if a brother or sister fucking out and thugged up on that darn, put his feet up on Nancy Pelosi's desk. Oh, by the way, the other day,
Oh, Lord, what are we doing? What are we doing here? I did not watch this. I didn't know this dude was going to talk about some white thugs in a room full of black people. The man asked that man a question. He said, what do you think about critical race theory inside of the schools? This dude's crazy.
somebody went to her crib. Speaking of thuggery, speaking of lack of character, the white supremacist crackerocracy, the rule, reign, and tyranny of white supremacist ideals, norms.
Yo, listen, family, learn how to talk like this. This is talking a bunch of bullshit. Learn how to talk like this. Seem like the women like it.
And value fucking out and thugged up on that darn, put his feet up on Nancy Pelosi's desk. Oh, and by the way, the other day somebody went to her crib. Speaking of thuggery, speaking of lack of character, the white supremacist crackerocracy, the rule, reign, and tyranny of white supremacist ideals, norms, and values, I'm talking specifically about that, show themselves to be bankrupt. So Juju and Jamal and them need to be held to account, and the rest of these thugs need to be thrown in jail to work on us. Now, to answer your point,
Dolomite, I see you, but listen, the man got a round of applause. This is where we're at. This is where we're at as people. That man got a round of applause for evading the question. The question was supposed to be about critical race theory in the schools. Listen, I'm telling y'all, brothers and sisters, I don't want to say, I'm not going to say it. I'm going to stick to the debate. I'm not going to say it, y'all.
about education. Critical race theory, and we have one of the most distinguished jurists in our nation sitting on this platform here, right? Critical race theory is a legal theory, invented first by Derek Bell.
Now, that's very true, Dolomite. That's very true. He does have a round of applause, but ain't nobody giving him no box. Look at him. I know it's a little blurry, but look at him. You know what I mean? Man ain't getting no box.
Right? Who was working with James Meredith in Mississippi, and then became the first tenured law professor at Harvard University. And Kimberly Crenshaw, Gary Peller, Marie Matsuda, Charles Lawrence. Right? It's you would call it an egghead theory, in the sense that us eggheads, philosophers and theoreticians and academicians, we up in the academy, we're coming up with very practical considerations that have theory at their base. And all critical race theory says, when it comes to think about institutional racism, don't think individuals, think institutions. Yeah. It's not whether or not you call me the N-word, it's whether or not the tax base will determine who gets an education and who gets the best education.
Wow. So he finally got the critical race theory, and once again, I know what I'm talking about. This man deals with inclusion. You see what I'm saying? Everything he talk about sounds like, the Kamala, whatever. It's an inclusion thing. So whatever he's talking about, he's including everybody else. Nothing that he speaks from is from a, I'm not going to do for only black people. It's not an only black thing. I mean, it is what it is, man.
The tax base and the property base will determine the distribution of goods and resources for education. So you might have a $70, $80, $90 million school out in the suburbs of Philadelphia or in Delaware, and in the inner city, barely running water with textbooks still second and third hand. So critical race theory is simply saying, as a legal philosophy, let's think not individual but institution, not particular persons but systems,
Brother, what have you been doing all these years? When they took the fucking instruments and the band playing musical instruments and shit out of the school. Fuck, where the fuck have you been all these years? Like, what is this dude talking about? They been took all of the auto mechanics, the wood shop, the photography. They took all the vocational stuff out of the schools. I mean, you know, we started playing like musical instruments, the saxophone, the trumpet, and we started playing that at like 4th grade. We knew how to read music. Once you got to like 7th and 8th grade, you had like home economics. You start to learn how to sew and dealing with different fabrics and stuff like that. Then you cooking. Then you have health class. Then when you get to high school, you get a vocational scenario. Say, okay, what you think you want to be? Oh, you think you want to take pictures? Oh, you think you want to do auto mechanic? I mean, they had all this stuff in the schools when we grew up. When this guy grew up. So what the fuck is he talking about? Let's check the institutions. Where have you been at all these years while they've been taking stuff out of the black schools? Like all of our children supposed to be going to watch them do their band day parades. I mean, what they do, Christmas concert, spring concert, winter concert. I mean, it used to be so like extra recreational, extracurricular, vocational. We had so many things in the schools. And this dude is acting like, yo, let's go after the institutions. Well, where the fuck have you been? If you're a philosopher and all this stuff, this is crazy.
In terms of the force and function of inequality in America, they ain't teaching no 5th grade students no daggone CRT. These white folk, for the most part, and Negroes too, who are against CRT, wouldn't know the difference between CRT and OPP.
See, this dude is all about talking. I just broke down to you the whole school thing. And he just made my point. So they took all of those things out of the school to where we don't know CRT from OPP. That's how dumb we've become. We used to know how to read music in the 5th grade. We used to know how to, sew and weave. What they call that shit? Crochet. We learned 7th grade. 12 and 13. Now he's saying, yo, these kids don't know this from that. This is what he allowed as a man in power, to just, the destruction. Like, all of those things is what you call free enterprise. So if you know how to play music, shit, you could get a job with a band. You ain't got to never go to college. You know how to read music and play your instrument or whatever. All free. That's how we learned in America. They got our kids fucked up. It was about free enterprise. Most of the dudes that learn auto mechanics, those niggas fix cars now. It's like, it's crazy. Nowadays, you got to go to a separate school after high school. Nah, it wasn't like that. They had real cars and auto mechanics in the schools. I mean, now they got the kids like so limited. It's crazy.
Right? And so, critical race theory, I've taught it for years. It's a philosophically dense, theoretically propitious, very concentrated form of thought about the social structural inequities that prevail, that disallow certain communities to inherit goods and services for which they pay their precious tax dollars. So
now, he just made my point, but he's saying it in a way that these dumb black people in the audience, and maybe y'all don't know, the way I broke it down. If you learn how to play the saxophone from 4th grade going all the way up through 12th grade and you never go to college, no disrespect to anybody, but you could, if you don't make a band or something, you could take your ass down to Coney Island and all these places and play your horn. Free enterprise at the very least. And that's the point that he's trying to make. Oh, they took this and took out. I've been dealing with it for years. Well, where the fuck have you been while they took all these free enterprise things out? That's how my brothers were opening up auto mechanic shops. They had cosmetology. The girls were in there. That's how they learned how to do the hair and the makeup and all that. And you know, the crossover dudes. They would, you know, they had the little weird, what's that shit? They had the mannequins that they used to go do the hair. They was doing white hair, black hair, all sort of different hair in high school. Free enterprise. That person ain't got to go to college. She could just go open her shop. She's been learning how to do hair her whole high school career. So this dude right here, he is crazy. He's really talking out of his ass because he's telling us exactly what we don't have, but he's not putting it in the layman terms the way I'm doing it. Showing you the things that they really took away from us. You know? And that's the sort of shit that you can pass down. You can pass your auto mechanics knowledge down. You can pass your music reading down. You can pass knowing how to do hair down. You could pass that knowledge down. They took all that away.
CRT is critical and necessary, but what they're trying to be against is the teaching of history in general. If you look at Ron DeSantis, what he did when he signed that anti-CRT bill was saying what? We don't want white students to be uncomfortable. Guess what, homie?
You hear this? This is all what you call word salad. Guess what, homie, and all this sort of stupid shit when I'm talking that real shit. I mean, these dudes are crazy, man. Like, this is what we're dealing with out here. But, like I say, I'm down with the sisters. Fuck it.
Discomfort is the basis of true education. Unless you hear a Judge Joe Brown go against what you think is the commonsensical way, and he twisted with his homespun genius, you're going to get uncomfortable because he's spitting some truth into you that you don't want to deal with. But that will motivate you to think differently about your situation. We are not here to make you comfortable. We're here to tyrannize your comfort when it rests upon inequality and the refusal to acknowledge the humanity of the masses of people. So
here we go again with this inclusion, masses of people. Brother, I mean, that's how we had all of the famous jazz musicians and all of this shit came just straight from just growing up, having all of the things supplied in school. You know? I mean, they had TV broadcasting, they had everything in high school. So if you went to college and you like wanted to further whatever you was doing in high school, it wasn't a burden as far as learning. It was something you wanted to do. And like I said, you didn't have to go to college, you know? Shit, in most of my hood, you know, in my areas up here in New York, they took the sports out of the high schools now. You know, a lot of high schools don't even have a basketball team. Like, it's crazy what they're doing to these schools. And this dude is talking about, nah, we just want an education for everybody. Listen. What they're doing as far as extracurricular and racial things now, it's sad what they're doing up here in New York. Yo, they putting them dudes in like all of the little boys. So it's no basketball teams in New York City. That's first and foremost. And the extracurricular recreational things that you have in school is like drama class, which is cool. You could be an Idris Elba, whatever the case is. But it's like, I don't know if y'all know about that, the show that used to be called Fame. You know, so they learn drama and all this other stuff. It's the weirdest shit what they're doing to the boys down here in New York, in the city in particular. You know, it is the most they have is like drama classes and indoor soccer, like just some wild shit. Hopefully the video don't stop on us, y'all.
CRT ain't about darn trying to make white folk guilty. It's about holding to account what the judge said. If it's good for the goose, it's good for the gander. These lack of character having politicians who...
Brother. And that's another thing. Now, if any of y'all black people out here and y'all had Spanish class, y'all had Spanish coming up, y'all had Spanish in school, right? They gave all of us Spanish, right? Now, I don't know what type of black neighborhood y'all grew up in. I grew up in a black neighborhood. It was only like one Puerto Rican in the whole fucking neighborhood. It was just black people. You know what I'm saying? So when Spanish class came around, they didn't tell us like, yo, dog, like Spanish is very important. It'll help you with a lot of things. Like we needed somebody to really tell us the importance of Spanish class. We didn't care about Spanish class the right way. But that's something that should be like emphasized in these schools, like way more critical than the way they pushed it on us. Spanish should be like some like damn near like English. It should be started early for the black people, you know. But this dude, he's talking all this wild shit. He should be talking real things, like out in the real streets. You can see the education that the kids are getting, you know. And it's really like they take all the stuff that you may want and then they put these choices in front of you and you don't make none of them.
Refuse to abide by the same principles that they live by. Let us have the same insurance you got up on Capitol Hill. Let the masses of American citizens enjoy those privileges. So for me, it's about anti-education. It's about, look, they love history except when it comes to us. 15,000 books on Abraham Lincoln. Books on even Aaron Burr, who, as you know, is Raymond Burr's cousin. All right, I just want to see if y'all compare.
Yo, son, he got the sisters, B. He got the sisters. Give that man credit. Give that man credit. He got the sisters. He talking a bunch of nothing, but he got the sisters. You know, like when we grew up, shit. What were we not doing? Like we had to hear our parents' mouth because we're practicing the horn or practicing the drums or the violin. We don't even know what we gotta hit. They're complaining. They gotta take us to damn practice after that. It's a lot going on for the kids to have all this wealth of privilege and recreation and camaraderie. You know, but that stuff is dead now.
So the point is that critical race theory is a theory, a legal academic theory that got taken by a young white student, graduated from Georgetown, who when reading the anti-racist literature discerned the repetition of citation of critical race theory and said, that will preach to the conservative firebrand. Yeah. I can use that to manipulate the consciousness of poor people, of working class white people, and of ignorant people of history to make them believe that what they're trying to teach your kid is critical race theory. No, we're trying to teach them about democracy. We're trying to teach them about white supremacy and slavery. We're trying to teach them about the beauty and the power and the beauty and the elegance of the country in which we live and some of the historical factors of the brutality and ugliness that we did at the same time.
I mean, think about it, y'all. Think about it. Think about it, man. So you could have like the next Jimi Hendrix. You could have the next Little Richard, you know, no Diddy. You could have like some of the next greatest instrument players you ever had. But they won't even get the fucking chance to play an instrument their whole lives. That's when we say critical race theory. These are the same people that invented jazz and all that stuff. So when you say critical race theory, you say, yo, you took out some of the, like, you're denying some of the most talented people, you know, the opportunity. But this dude don't know what he's talking about.
You can't love some history. Either you love history altogether or you don't love history at all. They reenact these Civil War battles. They dress up. They put all the costumes on. But one book about black...
Now you can see how he's talking from a negative standpoint. That's what I was saying earlier. He's talking from a negative standpoint. My standpoint hits home a little more because it's very practical. You know what it is. Give these children some instruments and let them sit together. Like, we only got white rock bands and all that stuff. We have no more black bands. You know, like, yo, that's free money for talent and hard work and dedication. Yo, it's fucked up, man. But this dude's talking about war and all this stupid shit.
Slavery. Oh my God, no. One book that talks about 16 16, 19. Oh no. The point is, either you are deeply imbued with a historical consciousness and an appreciation for history, or you ain't. Gore Vidal had it right. We live in the United States of amnesia. And many of these folks believe that Barbra Streisand supplies the theme song. What's too painful to remember?
He's the only one with amnesia. In the time that he grew up, he probably even played an instrument when he grew up. He probably dealt with some vocational stuff when he was in high school. He has the amnesia.
We simply choose to forget. If you don't like Barbra Streisand, Gladys Knight did a hell of a remix of that song.
All right, I want to segue the conversation. It was mentioned, Blue Lives Matter was mentioned, Judge Brown.
Now, I can't see the chat, but if I had my regular setup, I would ask you guys some questions, but I can't see the chat. So just type in, man, if you can understand what I'm saying, because I wanted to ask y'all, like, did y'all grow up playing any instruments? Did you have any vocational departments in your school, something where they were providing stuff for you where you didn't need college and you didn't have to be in debt and you wouldn't have to have a damn relief fund? You know? Like, don't y'all see it, man? Don't you see the fucking setup? Don't you fucking see it? Damn.
I want to ask you, do you believe in the concept of defunding the police? How should policing be reformed today?
Well, since I'm running for mayor of Memphis, I have an extensive and very detailed plan to do something about it. No, the police do not need to be defunded because crime is rampant everywhere, including in the black communities. What we do need is a total revision of the structure of the typical U.S. police department. Police department needs to be restructured like the U.S. Pentagon and the Department of Defense.
All right, I'm gonna fast forward a little bit. I don't give a damn about the police. You know, like
if you're looking to save, your time is now.
What we tell the children, what we tell the youth, you know, what we tell the youth out here. I mean, obviously y'all know them niggas don't listen, but what we tell them niggas, yo, you know, if you ain't getting bagged, stay the fuck from police. If police talk to you, shut up. If you get pulled over or something, roll your windows down. Give up your paperwork. Don't talk back.
So everybody has a piece of this action. Everybody is provided with the resources to deal with self-help, to deal with self-advancement, to deal with providing for themselves and those that depend upon them. You have to deal with their characters so they know who is depending upon them. You have to deal with what's in their heads so they are prepared to function in the 21st century. And then we can go someplace if we stop trying to keep somebody on the box. Now, you can be green for all I care, but if you got a good thing going on, I'll listen to you. Now, pass the mic.
Deal work. All right, second question for you, Dr. Dyson. Again, voter suppression. Should people be required to have IDs when they vote?
Well, look, first of all, I want to say what the judge said about police. So refreshing to hear. Because even if you disagree about, you know, those who say defund the police, they got in mind what the judge is talking about. So at some level, it's terminological and it's about nomenclature, not about the substantive velocity.
This dude here, man.
Do I love what he said about the civilian presence on these, you know, police. So the police that killed Freddie Gray came in from Delaware. So we see white people with machetes in their hand trying to...
Bro, we want to hear, what do you think about people should have an ID to vote? That's what we supposed to be getting the answer to, y'all.
Kill police and they refuse to shoot. We get some of that. Right? That's what we're talking about at the end of the day. Character of these characters needs to be reformed in a fundamental way. Now, to answer your question about voter suppression.
Yo, you got to understand, he's winning the crowd. I mean, I know it don't make sense. I know it don't make sense. But he's winning the crowd. It's silly. I get it. But you're seeing, like I say, if this was battle rap, he's getting more reactions. But the Joe Brown has more bars. Let's go.
I think what the judge said is right. There is overwhelming evidence that there's voter suppression. And voter suppression is about local Republican legislators that gerrymander districts, that cut them up and carve them up.
Yeah.
And when you look at the distribution of Republicans and Democrats, the Republican-controlled state...
Homie. All I asked you was, should people have an ID to vote? The fuck are you... Excuse my language, man. Sorry about that. How am I supposed to talk to this dude if he gonna do this? I'm asking him, should people have an ID to vote? I don't give a fuck about gerrymandering right now. We could get to that.
Legislators have changed the landscape of American politics because they're determining who goes to what district, who can get elected, who can be forced in, and who can be forced out. Voter suppression is real. Study after study has suggested that it's real. And I hear the judge is funny about that's a funny story about the thugs having ID. Some of them, they done made it up, but that's all right. They got the ID, right? It's counterfeit, but they got the ID.
There we go. There you have it. He finally let it out. He's racist against, black people. So a thug can't have ID. That's a damn shame. Yeah, I mean, how can you have a genuine conversation with a dude like this?
Now, what's interesting is you can have a gun ID and register to vote, but a college ID, you're disqualified. Hold it now. I'm confused. It is a issued ID, right, that allows you. Now, we know it's about federally issued IDs and so on and so forth. A lot of folk can't afford them, believe it or not. A lot of folk can't afford to pay that money. Just because you can afford to pay that money, you would think, oh my God, you can pay $30 and $40. A lot of folk can't do it. So they distribute the necessity for an ID law. Why was it a necessity when George Bush #1 got in office, or even George Bush #2? Why was the law changed after that? The judge is right in terms of the timeline, 2008, 2004, before then. Why was it good enough for George Bush to get in? But when Obama comes into play, there's a different set of principles and practices that are put forth. We ain't got to be no genius to understand that the right-wing hunter in this country is using every measure and every stratagem possible to reintroduce poll taxes, to reintroduce literacy taxes. In other words, every particular strategy that will deny people access. When the judge talks about what's going on in other countries, in terms of the...
Hold on. It's a fair argument, right? It's a fair argument. We did not want people to have IDs when George Bush was in office. That's a fair point right there. But he's missing the point. This is the wildest shit. You let 20 million illegal immigrants in. It's not the same country. Yo, dog. Can you say coon and stuff like that? Like, this is a coon vibe. This is not, you have 20 illegals. We didn't need that stuff. It was no heavy crisis of illegals when George Bush was in, from what we know. At this point, as black folks, we actually know. Yo, we seen them come across the border ourselves. We see them every day in life. So yeah, they would need some ID, man, nowadays. So the question to you is, yo, why black people can't ask for ID? We never ask for anything. Why we can't ask for ID when you vote now? Because we know we got a lot of different people here. We never asked for anything. And as far as that Obama shit, brother, like I said, this dude is an inclusion dude. Obama, he set off that inclusion marriage stuff. But this dude don't care about that. So he's an inclusion dude.
In terms of getting money, and $20,000 forgiven, first of all, most other countries got free education. You ain't worried about no damn student loan because you ain't got to pay for it in the beginning. Because your tax dollars already will supplement it. They do that in California, they do it in other places. So how about making education accessible to the masses? How about having a national holiday for voting? Why you got to...
Bro. Why would you give free college to the masses when we got all these illegal immigrants? Why you can't be specific and say give free college to the blacks? Why you can't say that? Why is it so hard to say that? All jokes aside. Somebody in the chat, let me know. Why is it so hard for this man to say give all the blacks free college? Why is he saying give to the masses, not being specific about blacks? Can anybody answer that? Yo, this dude's crazy. I didn't watch this debate. I just said, yo, let me bring it to my people before somebody else do.
Be taken off from your job because they're not interested in everybody voting. They want fewer and fewer people to vote. The Republicans have admitted that. They've done studies where they've said we don't want these people necessarily voting. It's too much access. I'm confused. I thought you were about democracy. No, you want your particular ideology to prevail. Study after study has shown the obvious and manifest injustice of the demand for voter ID laws, and the voter ID laws popped up at a certain historical juncture in this country when the right wing seized power. It was all right for Nixon to get elected under that. It was all right for Gerald Ford to get elected under that. It was all right for Ronald Reagan to get elected under that. It was all right for George Bush #1 to get elected under that. In other words, for a whole bunch of Democrats and Republicans. So let's not be hoodwinked and bamboozled by the stratagems of a white ring hunter in this country to undermine democracy. The moment we split citizen from voter, when you're born in this country and you're a legitimate citizen, you ought to have the right to vote. That is the inheritance of the best of democracy.
Who's clapping? Who the fuck is clapping? Who the fuck is clapping for this garbage? And all jokes aside, he said if you was born in America, you should have the right to vote. If you was born in America, you should have some fucking ID. Like, what are we doing? This dude's crazy.
I end by saying this. When voting first went into effect, women couldn't vote. Enslaved African people couldn't vote. Only if you were a property-owning white male did you have the possibility of voting. So when we fight for the release of unduly strictured laws against vote...
We who? We who? We who? Because he's speaking for everybody else besides black. But these dummies in the audience think he's talking about blacks. This nigga's not talking about just blacks.
It don't just help black people, it helps the masses of Americans. I'm for more people voting. I believe if...
They didn't clap to that. They didn't clap to that one, y'all. They didn't clap to that one.
You don't win this time, try it next time. Let me tell you what sore losers the right wing are. We didn't win. It must have been illegal.
Right, now he gotta go. Now he gotta go to being a clown to try to get reaction from the crowd. That bar didn't hit. Listen, now they've been giving this dude praise all night. Now look at this.
Strictured laws against voting, it don't just help black people, it helps the masses of Americans. I'm for more people voting. I believe if you don't win this time, try it next time. Let me tell you what sore losers the right wing are. We didn't win. It must have been illegal. It must have been immoral. It must have had a trick. The fix is in. My team didn't win. The Philadelphia Eagles are 7-0. If they lose one time, the Philadelphians might go, it's the fix in. You know Jalen Hurts went hurt. You know what happened there.
See? He got to go to clown. He got to go to clownism. He got to go back to clownism to get a reaction out the crowd. Like I said, who is applauding him? That's a whole different question. I mean, that's sad, man. I'm not going to keep y'all much longer. Just the fact that you got a black man inside of a black audience talking about, I want rights for everybody else, not just black people. He said it to your face. I would have said, you bitch ass nigga.
Democracy, I end by saying this. When voting first went into effect, women couldn't vote. Enslaved African people couldn't vote. Only if you are a property owning white male.
So what other people was in the country when the white males were the only ones that could vote? What other people was there?
Did you have the possibility of voting? So when we fight for the release of unduly strictured laws against voting, it don't just help black people, it helps the masses of America.
They say it to your face, black people. We not here to just help black people. They say it to your face. Okay? Don't make no fucking sense. But he went on for a while. Let's see what Judge Joe Brown had to say about all that.
January 6th, it was deplorable, but there are 185 people. I saw that all the time back in the 60s when one college or high school got upset because their team didn't go to the bowl game. When I think of riots, I think of being in South Central in 1965 where they called out a division of the Army to put it down, and there are 15,000 armed troops out there to do it, and you look from horizon to horizon.
Whoa, Judge Joe Brown spitting that fire now. He said, man, you called January 6th a riot? I'm talking about South Central LA, where they call, big difference.
And if you turn around and everything's on fire, that's a riot. I think of take your booties to the poll. And when you start talking about voter suppression, are you trying to take that non-thinking group out there so you can manipulate them like they're sheep? Remember, I'm not on anybody's side. I'm independent. I just want to see effectiveness. I remember a client of my law office. He got cheated badly 22 years ago. His name, Al Gore. He was a client for our office. See, both sides do this. The Republicans did it then, and I don't care what anybody says. I saw some of the fraud up close and personal this last guy. Where I live, with the voting machine totals coming out of the 14th largest city in America. Part of the game, but it needs to stop. And the voters need to be enlightened and educated and benefiting of a free press where you can hear everything, not just those things that pass an agenda. Now, I was a teaching assistant for a visiting professor way back when. And she said America is in grave danger of becoming a fascist country. Not from some jackboot wearing, goose-stepping, uniformed political thugs, but as she put it, from some long-haired beatniks who will impose the worst methods of fascism in the name of doing something for you. Read 1984, read Animal Farm, both by Orwell if you want to get a line on it. It's dangerous. And I don't get it about people's sensitive feelings. I mean, I grew up when we used to run the dozens and elementary school, junior high school, and I won't say nothing, man, but I was by your house last night, man, and your mama, you know, et cetera, et cetera. Now they go, you know about my mother, man, I said, calm down. All in art form. But you see, Black Lives Matter is what I saw back then when everybody was trying to hustle. You had a lot of people who were sincere with what they were doing, and some other ones that just said, let me pimp this cause, let me hustle this cause, and see how much money I can get. Years later, I made some Freedom of Information request, and oh yeah, I knew it back when. He was a snitch. He was an informant. He was an agent. I mean, somebody I knew one time, interesting, I knew him well. He was supposed to be a medic, just got back from the Nam. He was always helping folk out. Every now and then, what we did, people would get injured. Some years later, I was in law school and I attended this murder trial to watch, and they bring him out. I thought, oh, this dude's an informant. They said, no, this is Lieutenant Tackwood, long head of the counterintelligence section, Special Investigative Services for Los Angeles Police Department. I said, oh, wow. You know, I mean, it's a real thing. I went to a school where in broad daylight, two individuals I recruited to UCLA, John Huggins and Bunchy Carter.
I gotta stop it sometimes for the copyright, but Judge Joe Brown, you know, he can go on with the stories.
I remember that. 1967, me, you, so-and-so, Professor so-and-so, and so-and-so, we came up with this Black Studies program. Our secretary and another one with a lady named Marie Brown.
Right? At the end of the day, again, we know what the real crooks are. We know where the real criminals are. But see, those folks.
I think this dude is more fire because he's talking complete bullshit and he's getting more street crowd reaction.
And these, you know, especially those in the hood, right, in the rioting, so they're gonna go to jail. They're gonna serve their time. It's these ones out here who keep appealing to Judge Clarence Thomas by taxes from being seen by the Congress. It's the ones who appeal to the Supreme Court, Judge Roberts, to stay, certain things occurring. So again, I'm with the judge. I just think the cast of characters, the ones who is the real criminals, not who is the real criminals, are the ones you see every day claiming it. And it ain't a big.
That's fucked up. He said the real criminals who is. He want to make sure he talk black a little bit. I mean, so there you have it. I gave you guys a little bit of time, you know, on some political shit, just to let you understand, you know, it's so messed up how black used to be, man. And what it is now, and like you got a guy like this talking against everything that we used to have in order to he's splitting the pie. And that's what a lot of black folks got a problem with. They just want their own pie. Whatever it is, you know? But those days are gone. So I'll see y'all at the next one, man.